everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Most Famous Person I Barely Met. Very international now. We're getting international people. I'm told they're international. I believe them. This is episode 10 with the great writer, teacher, horse rider, everything, Roz Morris, one of my fellow Vine Leaves Pressians, if that's the right way to pronounce it. Roz is a very talented person, very supportive, and I'm really excited to have her on the show. Let's say hello. Hello, Roz.
Hi, John. I'm so excited to talk to you voice to voice and video to video at last.
You're the one. Someone said someone's excited to talk to me, so this is great. Well, you're very lovely. I love your outfit. I love your outfit. I saw Roz's bio. She likes all the music I like, so I'm already excited. Roz, where are you coming from? Where are you beaming in today?
From London. And I've been here for, well, all my student life, all my working life. And that's probably quite unadventurous, really. But yeah,
Uh,
it suits me.
London, I've been there once. I have a great friend who lives in London. I'm going to give a shout out, Chris Soprano, Villanova guy. He loves London. I was over there. He took me to dinner. What a great city. But you're not originally from London, right? You're from what part of England?
I'm from further north, up in Cheshire, which is near Manchester. That's probably one of the nearest cities people might
Okay.
have heard of, and that's where I grew up. But I always sort of felt like I didn't belong there. I wanted to do something in the arts. I didn't know what, so I came to college in London and thought, well, that's a good start. I might
Oh,
somehow
nice.
find my way into the arts, and eventually I did. I just kind of didn't have a big plan, but just ended up working with people, meeting more people because of those. And I'm actually just writing about all this, how I ended up where I ended up in the book I'm working on at the moment, which
Oh,
is a memoir.
oh,
And
nice.
yes, I mean, that's my first memoir. If you start writing memoirs, you just carry on and on.
Yeah, you got to buy her books, audience. Roz is so talented. Um, Growing up in Northern England, is that where you became sort of a horse aficionado? Tell me.
Yes, yes. There were several provocations, really. The house I grew up in was quite old, and it had stables because it was built at a time when that's how people got about.
Uh-huh.
And we couldn't afford horses, but we still had those stables there. And in my imagination, the horses were there.
Wow.
And then some people moved in next door who had ponies, and I thought, oh, I would just love to be able to ride.
Oh,
And I just sort of fell in love with horses and all the items of horse paraphernalia. They're all
yeah,
beautiful to me,
they are
and
beautiful animals.
and it's never left me. So I still love horses, and in
You,
fact
you
I
still you still ride?
I do. I have a horse now, and
Not outside your street in London, right? You're not running, walking around.
no, but I did. This is my second one now. The first one I bought and I kept it in Wimbledon because there's a big common there where you can ride, and
I
it's
didn't
and
know that.
it's woods and forests, and across the road from it is Richmond Park, which is even bigger. That was one of Henry VIII's old hunting grounds. So there are lots of big green spaces in London,
Oh, I didn't
and
know that.
yeah, it's
You,
apparently
you,
an
you
amazing city for this.
you can't ride onto the tennis courts while they're playing, right? And just kind of like,
No, they're not the separate bit of Wimbledon.
so
No,
you
there's the sort of thickets of woods and everything.
you have a horse right now over there? Is
I
it
do, I
what's your
do, and
horse's what's your horse's name?
his name is Val, which is he's Irish, so it's a male Val, like Val Doonican,
Uh-huh.
and he's yeah, like I actually now keep him a little bit further out in Surrey, where there are much bigger woods
Uh-huh.
and fields and everything,
Great
and
name. Vowel. How do you spell that?
Val, Val. It
Okay,
might
I
be
was
short for Valentine.
oh, that's very sweet. Because I was
It's
thinking
very
because
sweet.
you're a writer, Vowel, Vowel. What a
Oh.
smart name for because if I my next I have cats. I'm gonna name my cat Preposition. I think my next cat.
Oh, that's great. That's a great cat
Not for
name.
the cat, but for me. Um,
No, but the cat doesn't know what its name is.
they do. I've become very convinced my cats are very smart. So that's very, very fun. Oh, Val after Valentine. So you love your horse. You love your horse.
Well, he came with that name actually, but I
He
thought I
came.
just, yeah, he arrived with that name because I
Okay.
bought him from someone else. He was a hunting horse in Ireland,
Oh, how
and
smart. Oh,
yeah.
hunting horse. So Henry VIII. He's not with us anymore, right? He's gone. Henry
No,
VIII.
no, no. I don't know if there was ever a Henry the Ninth, but
No,
eighth
no.
has been dead for quite a long time.
I love all that. I love English history. I love the Tudors and all that. I'm sure I would have been sent to the Tower very quickly,
I
or
would have died, I'm sure, because I'm very short-sighted, and at the moment I'm wearing contact lenses. But they didn't have glasses in those days, so I would have just been, run over or something at about
I
the age of
didn't know
12.
that. I didn't know that. Okay, and Henry VIII did wear bifocals, I heard. So I don't know. So
He might have, I think he had gout and all sorts of other very
he
uncomfortable
was a
things.
very
So it was a very
madman.
uncomfortable
Yeah, he
Henry
was.
we're
That's
talking
why he
about.
killed his wives. He was a
Yeah,
little.
yeah, just
He didn't know he
really
was killing them.
uncomfortable.
He couldn't see very well. Um, so art. You were interested in the arts as a child. Was there any particular genre that you really were you always drawn to writing, or was it also fine art or music, or what was the young Roz thinking about?
Well, I liked really odd things. So I really liked science fiction from an early age because it would put humanity into odd situations. It would invent new physics. And also, out of my bedroom window, I could see the Jodrell Bank Radio Telescope, which is a vast white dish. And
Wow.
it looked into the sky. And more than that, you could see when it had moved. And that meant it was tracking something that we couldn't see that was beyond the clouds. And I just loved that.
That is so cool.
So
Wow.
yes, I grew up thinking there is loads of really interesting stuff to dig into about being human and about wonder
Yeah.
and mystery. So
Yes.
it was that really that gave me the imagination that I've
Right.
got.
Trying
And
to explain it, right?
yeah, well, just to explore and think what might happen to people, what might people find that's a bit
Hmm.
odd and that they might have to deal with, and
Great
gradually,
answer.
yeah.
Well, I can tell why you're a good storyteller, why you're a memorist. I love talking to writers like this because you have passion for but it's there. You don't have to dig around. Like, why did boom, there was a thing outside my thing. I had a friend once, a great writer named Susan Cheek, and she told me once, she said, as like an 8-year-old, she was in the bathtub and she would watch the drops come out one by one, the melancholy drops. I'm like, at 8, oh my God, you got that kind of gift, that creative sort of looking deeper, right? So,
I love that. The melancholy drops. I want to savor
yeah,
that moment. That's great.
yeah. Well, I'll tell her to call you. She'll.
Yeah.
Um, Well, that's so fun, and I love that you pursued it. So, was your family into the arts, or were you like an outlier child?
I was pretty much an outlier. Everyone else did sensible things, but I think my father was a very frustrated writer. He would have really liked to have been one. And I don't know what made me just decide that it was for me, but I think it came from reading um, interviews in Sunday color supplements that came with the
Hmm.
newspapers, and they were always interviewed people in the arts, and I thought that was a wonderful way to live, to make
Yeah,
things that other
yeah,
people loved, and I just thought I'd love to do that. I can't see at all how,
right.
and but I just sort of inched my way towards it.
Isn't that nice? And you went to school in London, you said in the air in
I went to my university was in London. I know in
university.
America you call school a different thing.
Yeah,
We
we
say
call.
school
What'd
is
you
up
get?
to the age of 18, and
Okay.
then you to go to university, and
Yes,
that's usually when you leave home and you really spread your wings and
I
you
see.
start your new self.
Yeah, we try to dumb it down over here. We don't, you know what I mean? We just, reading, writing, and remitment, whatever the heck. Very good. So before I ask you a little bit about your writing life and all that, music too, you're into music. I know that, right? Isn't that correct? Or you love
Oh, that is, yes, and
because I know
that
you
would have
like the
been.
same sort of I'm stuck in the 80s alternative, but what's your genre? What do you like so much?
Oh, yes, a lot of 80s. When I was at college, again, I arrived there and I got a much better education in music than I think I
Okay.
did in my degree subject. So
Okay.
I had people who took hold of me and said, prog rock. And I said, oh, yes, because
Yeah,
it was big and dramatic and
sure.
it didn't just take itself seriously. It said, there is wonder here, listen to it. And I absolutely loved that. My
Wow.
first real music passion was Kate Bush,
Oh,
because
brilliant.
she just came along and
She's still
she
running up that hill. She's still running
everything. Don't stop because I can sing it. And
up. We'll bring you back for that. We'll
yeah,
bring you back for
the
the
musical
Kate Bush
episode, like Buffy.
retrospective.
But yes,
Brilliant.
music's terribly important. And Kate Bush particularly, because what she did was she did what she was passionate about and interested in.
Yeah.
And for a teenager finding my way, I thought,
Mm.
well, that's the kind of person I think it would be brilliant to be,
Yeah.
to follow what you were interested in, to make new things as well that
Nice.
people hadn't seen or heard before. And again, that's an ethos I've always sort of carried on with. I've always thought it was marvelous to do that.
I like your answers so much. I like people, I believe this very much. I think heroes are good. Some people say be an original. I've always had heroes, and I like people that have heroes, and that I want to be like that. I think it's wonderful, to like it's guideposts. It takes a little pressure off. All and for me, all my favorite music is England. I love
Is it?
Joy Division. I love uh, it's not Duran Duran. Who Echo and the Bunnymen. I love all these kind of like dark Manchester,
Oh,
uh,
Manchester.
New Order. I love them
Mm.
all. So, and Kate Bush. So excellent. So the writing life. When did you start? Now I know that we share a publisher, Vine Leaves Press. You said you're
Mm.
friends with their publisher, Jessica Bell. But give an overview of the writing life.
Well, the writing life began, well, I was always a scribbler. I loved telling
Huh?
stories. I loved being with the page.
Hmm.
All my friends would get very long letters, whether they liked it or not. And,
No one
it was
writes
very,
letters anymore. It's
no, but I
text,
did. I just
LOL.
loved writing. And yeah, so it was always quite natural for me to express myself that way. And for a long time, I thought, oh, maybe I'll do music in some way, but I didn't really see how because I hadn't studied it. Whereas
Hmm.
I got my various school qualifications in English, and I went to university to study English literature.
Hmm.
But most of all, I was just always captivated by a good sentence. My favorite books I'd read over and over again because I would think I just loved spending time with that prose.
Oh,
And it's
nice.
amazing to do those things with words.
Hmm.
And that was
Beautiful.
something I was always captivated by.
Hmm.
And I just gradually met people who wrote a bit, and then I met other people who wrote a bit more,
Hmm.
and ended up working in journalism. But that wasn't really me. I couldn't care less about news, for instance. What I
Uh-huh.
wanted was to dwell on things that were interesting to me and show other people why they were interesting, and
Nice.
involve people in the wonder. Again, the wonder and mystery, that's just something I
Right.
love. So gradually I happened to meet someone who was a writer, and he introduced me to another writer and reader. I married him, and
Good.
and so gradually, bit by bit, I sort of found my way into the life that I'd sort of been searching for all the time. I think
Hmm.
it
Nice.
was it was what would be right for me. And once I met a lot of people who were writing, they were all just working on books, and that was just a normal thing for them to be doing. And I thought, yeah, that feels right. I
Nice.
want to work on a book.
Isn't that wonderful? Um, yeah, I brought it up in other episodes because I talked to a lot of writers. One of my favorite essays is by George Orwell, Why I Write. And he kind of gives a list of, it's like almost like a diagnostic test of are you a writer? And always what you're saying here, I just hear writer, writer, writer. And it's like a love of words, the way they look on the page.
The
They
way they look, people don't
yeah,
talk about that, but just the shape of a word, it's just got
no,
sort of
it's very
vibes in
common.
it.
It's a very common affliction of writers. We just love the aesthetic of the word. And I don't know about you, but like writers, they don't want that word, that one word hanging at the end of a sentence. It's got to be symmetrical. It's got to look and all that. And so there's a lot. And sometimes I teach a little too, and someone will come. I'm not a writer. I go, well, let's go through the list. And it's almost like a little,
Oh.
and then I always say, well, I'm sorry, I have to give you bad news. You're a writer, so books. So what do you have? What are your books that my audience should buy? Buy lots of them. What do you
Well, I've mentioned a memoir. The one I'm working on is the follow-up to my first one. And gosh, that sounds so self-centered, doesn't it? But memoirs are
No,
not your
books is
entire autobiography. They're one story from your life.
right.
And that's the first one I wrote. It's called um, Not Quite Lost, Travels Without a Sense of Direction.
Beautiful
Um,
title.
it's just a series of little adventures, but they're quite quirky, and
Uh-huh.
it's about exploring England, mostly England, and just finding weird places out of season. I also write a newsletter, and I tend to write little stories like that. It's
Yes.
just sort of, I call them unadventures because they're not very big, but things happen. Like if you go to a museum out of season, you find all the
Mm.
volunteers who are working there and they love the stuff they're doing. And
Oh,
there's just this atmosphere of devotion. Like I
yes.
went to an aircraft museum, and there
Uh-huh.
was a guy polishing the top of a search and rescue helicopter,
Oh,
like it was his most precious possession.
isn't
And
that?
I was just looking at this thing going on,
Yeah.
and it was I just love things like that, and the people you meet as well.
Yeah.
I went around Glastonbury in
Mm.
Somerset, which is a very famous place with lots of connotations of King Arthur and
Mm.
mysticism and ley lines and everything. And I was I was shown round by a guy who believed himself to be dating the reincarnation of someone from Arthurian legend.
Really?
And I realized actually that it was a spiel that he gave to tourists. And I didn't believe him, but I
Right.
still wanted to know what had really happened because obviously was a real romance under this. So I was asking questions about this,
Mm.
and he was saying, "But look, in those hills, you see the shape of the mother goddess." And I was thinking, "No, but tell me about this girl. It's really about her."
He
So
didn't know what he was up against. He was
no, no, but there's those sort of things, odd encounters, and
yeah.
so that's what's in there, and this is a novel. This is my most recent book,
And what's the title?
Ever
Everest.
Rest.
Oh,
This is Ever
beautiful.
Rest,
Beautiful. I love
and
your titles.
thank you. It's
Beautiful cover too.
I I first had the idea of a man who'd fallen into a glacier while climbing a mountain and couldn't be got
Mm.
out, and how he'd just stay there until the glacier released him.
Oh.
And all the people who knew him would be waiting as well
Mm.
because they wouldn't have the closure.
Yeah.
And then I thought, what if he was a musician and the whole world was waiting for him?
Oh, what a
And
nice.
out there
Mm-hmm.
in, on YouTube now, but on records, because it begins in sort of the 2000s. I actually can't remember the exact date, but records and CDs were how people were listening to music. But anyway, this guy would be on records and CDs and videos, and everyone would know him, and they'd be able to replay
Oh.
his stuff whenever they could. And he would still be young, the age he went in. They're all getting older, and they're
Mm.
thinking our God is in, who was actually also the voice of our teenage years, is
Mm.
still there, still
Still
going to come
there.
out. And then I
Wow.
thought, put those things together. The people who really knew him, his girlfriend,
Uh-huh.
his best friend who he was in the band with, a
Right.
rival or two who were also in the band, they're all waiting as well because they can't move on and there's unfinished business.
Oh.
And until he comes out, they will not ever rest.
There you go. See, oh, well, get that book, young people out there. Get that book. It's worth it just to hear you say glacier again. I love you say glacier. You know what I mean? Like we'll get into Steam America. We say ice, a lot of ice. So it's so beautiful. Um, I really like your approach and your ideas. I always say writing is solving problems. Writing is solving problems.
Mm.
And it's funny when you write novels and all that, you start your own problem. And it's like, what, like you set it up, like what do you do if someone can't get out? And then you solve
Mm.
that problem. You know what I mean? And as you go on, you solve more. Too, there's a finite number of things to write about and all that. but I always think the writer is like a camera. What do you choose? And I really like that you saw that guy polishing that thing, right? And like other people don't see that. There's like tragedy there. There's honor. There's triumph, and I think it's the small little things that we're trying to share with or say something. There's something that you want to say.
I think that's definitely it. I think writers are noticers.
Yeah, yeah, we're observers, and
Yeah.
and we're detached too. I haven't met a writer too that's not a little detached, a little detached. We belong to everything, but we don't belong to all. Something like that. I'm working
Yeah.
on a phrase that way.
Well,
So
I like that observation about detachment, because I think something that we're very that's very comfortable to us is just watching what other people do.
yeah,
If I go into a room with a lot of strangers, I want to actually just drift and listen, take
yeah,
pictures,
sure,
write down what they make me think of.
yeah.
The joy to me is all that.
No, yeah. Well, I always say sometimes I feel like a vampire because when someone says
Yeah.
something, I go like this. I kind of go in close, like, say that again about your father. What did he do when he woke up in the morning? He what? You know what I mean? So, we're kind of always culling, story. But
Mm.
we're interested. We're sort of like gossipers, but we gossip on the page, and we make people. It's very good. Well, you are a writer. You are a writer. You're interesting and you're fun. That's the best part. I love your passion. Well, how about ask you our mystery question before I ask you to share?
Go
Um,
on. I love
I
mystery.
Okay, my mystery question. So I kind of read your bio, and well, I did read your bio, and you've been a ghostwriter. You've been a
Mhm.
ghostwriter. You 4 million copies sold for people and all that. Really good. Have you seen a ghost?
No, and I wouldn't believe it was a ghost, but I would also, at the same time, be very scared. If something goes bump in the night, I
Yes.
am, it really, really worries me. I'm very scarable, but I also am too practical and to think, oh, it really is a ghost.
Okay.
So no,
So
I
not
haven't.
yet. No ghost
Not
yet.
yet. You're right.
But
Not
you but
yet.
you've been a ghost writer. A bad joke is like you're writing about your. Well, I ask people either if they've seen Bigfoot or a ghost, or have you seen a UFO?
No, I wish I would, because I think that would be quite interesting to be
Not me.
visited by aliens. As
Not
long as
me.
they didn't kidnap me.
I want to believe we're the only people on around. I'm very myopic that way. I don't want anyone else. I don't want to. All right. Well, Roz, I could talk all day about writing and things with you, but let's get to it. Share with the audience here, the growing audience, who is the most famous person that you barely met?
Clint Eastwood.
Oh, Dirty Harry. All right,
Everything.
share. Let's hear it.
Mm. Well, I sometimes work as a film extra. Now, you might think if I'm on a set of a movie, it's not surprising to meet Clint
Okay.
Eastwood if he happens to be there. But when you're an extra, you don't usually get to meet any of the famous people. You're furniture, and you're sort of corralled around by an assistant director who doesn't deal with the stars or anything.
Okay.
And I was an extra on a film called Hereafter,
Okay.
which, funnily enough, is quite bookish.
Okay.
And it's there's a part of it that's set in the London Book Fair, except I will say they know nothing about the London Book Fair. But they wanted bookish looking people. And here's a funny thing: all
Okay.
the extras jobs I've done have realized that I look exactly like the thing I am, which is bookish.
Yes.
And I never get any other sort of jobs. I didn't even get Harry Potter with my red hair,
Oh,
but I've always played journalists or writers,
uh-huh.
and in this case,
They
just a visitor.
typecast you. Okay.
I'm typecast, and also I look like what I do. It's really
Yeah,
funny.
you look cool.
So I was sent to Pinewood to be for a costume fitting to look like a bookish person going around the London Book Fair. And actually, what happened was I just took a hold all of clothes, my stuff, and
Uh-huh.
they said, "Yeah, we want you to wear tweeds." And I thought, right, writers, we don't all wear tweeds, but never mind. I used a horse riding jacket.
Yeah.
And then they wanted us to film at Alexandra Palace, which is a big exhibition centre in the north of London. It was originally
Okay.
some kind of palace, and they sent us an email before we turned up, saying, just to let you know, you're not to speak to Mr. Eastwood unless he speaks to you, because they
Okay.
knew everybody would be having the vapors. And,
Make my
so
day.
yeah, well, oh, yeah, yeah, no, just everything. So and it's actually quite unusual because I've done a number of films and bits of TV, and I've never been sent a message saying, "Don't talk to the
Don't
extremely
look at
famous person."
him.
Yeah, but obviously they felt this would be a problem with this movie. So anyway, we all turned up, and we were sort of just being moved around. It's like being cattle. You're just told,
Uh-huh.
go to that bit, and all the extras go to that part of the set,
Sure.
and then come over here, and all the extras go to there. And at one point, I had been put on the steps of Alexandra Palace, and I was literally just put there, and various other extras were down at the bottom of some steps, sort of looking up.
Mhm.
They'd been put there, and you spend a lot of time standing around as well. And somebody came out of the main doors and stood next to me. He was here.
Oh,
And
okay.
I sort of looked, and I could see his headphones, which had got Sennheiser on the back, and his name,
Okay.
Clint. And he was standing next to me. Actually, he's very tall, so he's kind of up here.
Sure.
And I thought, well, he's there, isn't he? And
Don't look at him. Don't look at him.
yeah, I sort of glanced, and he glanced at me, and he said, "How are you doing?"
Oh,
He thought, well, I've been spoken to. So,
that's
so I
nice.
said, "I'm very well, thank you. How are you?" In my
And
best
then
queenly
they
accent.
tackled you and dragged you out of there.
No, he sort of looked out and said, "Oh, yeah." And
Wow.
then we both continued to look around. And by this time, all the other extras were staring at me
Sure.
because
Sure.
something we'd all been talking about
Yes.
when we
Yes.
were
At
sort of in little.
gunpoint.
It was, but also they were all saying, he's there. And whenever he went, and he'd be in the distance, you'd see what looked like just a very
Mm.
tall, almost broomsticky figure because he was so thin,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
and he was just moving in a really thoughtful way, looking around at things. And people would be texting their mothers, going, "On the set with Clint Eastwood." and,
Wow.
and there I was, sort of standing next to him. And afterwards, people came up to me and said, "He spoke to you." and,
I'm never
and
gonna
people
wash
were
my
saying this.
ears again.
It was yes, it was very strange. And I went home at the end of the day, and my husband had got a friend over. They were working on a book together, and they said, "Well, how was it? Did you meet Clint?" They said, and they knew I'd been sent this email
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that I wouldn't meet Clint. And I said, "Yes, I did," and he spoke to me.
Oh, you broke the code. That
But
is such a
he
good
broke the
story.
code. I just
Yeah, no, he
responded.
liked you. Well, you're a happy kind of nice energy. That's a great story. That's a great and Clint Eastwood, great movies. My wife, it's funny, she's from Taiwan and she learned English a lot through movies and all that. She just thought he was the greatest looking person on the face of the earth until she met me. And then she thought he was a better looking person than me. Very cool. And so you've been on a lot of movie sets and doing stuff and all that, right?
Bits and pieces. Usually, I don't get chosen because I'm meant to be in the background, and
Yes.
hair like this is not background. But there have been a few when it's been
Right.
exactly right.
Right.
So I was in a murder mystery, and I actually had a line to say. And but this all started actually when I auditioned for a dance advert just as a
Oh,
joke,
okay.
and I got the part.
I think that's I really enjoyed that story. You tell it very well. You tell it very well. And it's such an iconic figure, you know.
Yeah,
A lot of, I don't know anyone who hasn't seen a Clint Eastwood movie and he's still knocking it out.
yeah, he is.
He's like
It was so
90,
lovely
he's
to watch him
90.
work as well
Yeah,
because he
and
was very thoughtful and considered, and he would be
yeah,
directing. There's a kid in this film, so he was just saying, "Just want you to walk along
I,
as though you're kind of in another place. Take your
yeah.
time."
No, he's a
It's just
great
lovely.
director. I think one of my favorite movie scenes ever is The Good and the Bad, the Ugly. When he's at the end, I don't know if you know that movie, There's great
Not
music
really,
where the
no. I
three
know
of
lots of his others.
I forget who the two other guys are, and they're facing each other for a duel at the end, and it's like it was
Oh,
the
yeah,
spaghetti
amazing.
westerns. They were so
Mm.
good. Well, Roz, that was really fun. That was really good. Here's my follow-up question.
Mm.
If you saw Clint Eastwood now, what would you say to him?
Oh, I don't know. I'm terrible at thinking of the right thing to say. And
There's
now
no
this
right
is
or
a
wrong.
writer trait. This is a writer trait
Okay,
because
ready? I'll give you the scenario. You're
mm,
galloping around with Val. You're having a great time. You turn a corner. Clint is there with a uh, pistol, shooting a scene. They break off. He walks over, pats your horse, looks up at you, and what do you say?
actually I would be heading in the opposite direction because my horse does not like men.
He doesn't look okay.
No, there's no way Clint or anyone would get
You wouldn't
close.
say "Make my day," Mr. Eastwood, or whatever.
It might be, it might be. I'm terribly sorry about that.
Don't look at me. Don't talk to
It
me.
would be, I'm sorry, I'll get him back. I do want to talk to you,
Yeah, another day.
but this
Another
animal
day.
won't let me.
Well, the goal of my podcast is to become so popular that when people come on, I'll say, "Don't look at me. Don't talk to me. Don't talk to me." Yeah. Well, listen, he was happy to say hi to you. This was really fun. So, what's coming up for you in the writing thing? What's next for Roz Morris?
The next thing is the memoir that I'm working on right now, which is called Turn Right at the Rainbow.
Oh,
Uh,
another good title.
Thank
Okay.
you. And I actually read a little bit of it at a Vine Leaves Press evening that we did
Oh,
a couple
nice.
of months ago. Were you on that as well? Did you
I was
do a
not,
different
but
one?
to my great regret. But I love this press that we're in. It's very supportive, and
Mm.
buy Roz's books, and also find her on social media. She's really good. She posts fun stuff and a lot of content. I always like when you post your desk. That's my favorite
Oh,
thing.
you like the desk?
I
Thank
love the
you.
desk because it's such a writer's that, but it's very inspiring to me because you'll say a lot of things to do this week and it looks like it, and then sometimes you'll post on like did it, and it's really a great way. In writing, it's all show don't tell. So when you show your desk, you're showing sort of like this artistic, creative, force. That's how I feel. So I think that's very very clever.
Oh, thank you. That's on my Facebook page, in case people
Yes,
are
yes,
wondering.
find her. So this is when this comes up on Facebook, friend Roz and demand her desk. Demand her desk. Well, all right, kids, that's today's episode. Really, thank you, Roz. Everyone out there, like this, subscribe, buy Roz's books, check her out. Very creative, very funny, very smart person. If you see her riding around Wimbledon and you're a man, do not go up to the horse.
Don't.
Not go up to those. Clint Eastwood, if you're listening to this, give us a call. We'll have you on
Yeah.
we'll have you on. We'll have you on. But thank you, Roz. I really appreciate it. You're really fun and funny. So good
Thank
energy.
you. Thank you so much for inviting me. And this is such a cool idea for a series.
Good.
It's
Thank you. Well, you're
excellent.
cool. I do it by osmosis. You're cool. You're cool. Okay. Bye bye.
Bye.